Buongiorno! So just giving you guys a heads up, I'm going to be going live in about little less than 30 minutes. I am currently taking my power nap. Those of you guys that saw the vlog from Friday, you know, I was up really late, so I'm still like in a different time zone. Because of being up so late on Friday, pretty much my clock has been off all weekend. My plan of action today is I'm going to work out after work to get myself tired so I can fall asleep faster, and then hopefully get back in the right time zone by tomorrow. But regardless, right now, that's why I'm here. I'm doing my little power nap. I know some people are like, how can you benefit from 10-15 minutes of sleeping and you're not even fully asleep? It works. It'll work differently for different people, but it works. Do the research. Go online, do the research. I recommend you give it a shot. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, big deal. It doesn't cost you anything. Anyway, I'm into my power nap right now, and then I'm going to leave the stream up. And once I'm ready to get started, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to give you guys time to get the notification that I'm streaming and be ready for when the stream begins. All right? Because I'm not going to be keeping a lot of these streams up on the channel. So if you don't get to watch it live, you're going to miss out on it. So that's why I'm going to make sure that as many people as possible, can get the notification. Anyway, power nap time. I will see you guys shortly. So just stay in the chat room, say hi, say what's up. Start shortly. We shall be starting shortly. Stand by, stand by. welcome. All right, so we're going to get started. So you guys in the live stream, in the chat room, go ahead and click on the like button. I definitely appreciate that. Say hi, and we're going to go ahead and get started and jump right into things. And as I stated earlier, what we're doing today is I'm just going to be talking about SQL or SQL of my Jeppe Kawa is in the chat, and I see the likes coming in. Definitely appreciate it. All right, so I got limited time here, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, all right, so first of all, let's talk about the different types of queries that I've typically been running. Now, there's a lot of different types of queries out there. Depending on what you're doing, you'll be doing different types of queries, but I'm going to speak relative to the type of things that I've been doing in the past. So what I will do now is let's pull up types of SQL queries. So if you guys remember, we talked about data definition queries, and you guys who watched the live stream, we talked about that. So we're going to cover that, but this time in the context of what I have been doing in the past. All right, I'm getting the screen here. Now let me just let you guys see. I try my best to keep an eye on the chat, but just bear with me. I only got one screen here. That's not my super setup I have at home. Okay, there we go. All right, so you guys should be able to see this now. Let me go ahead and get started. All right, so we talked about the various types of queries, and you'd be surprised how many people out there doing SQL and they don't even know this, because you don't necessarily need to know this, but it's good to know, and it will give you context for this discussion today. So you guys in the chat, let me know if the sound is good. If the sound is good, I'll go ahead and get started. Let me take a look at the live stream preview. Sometimes people take a while to respond, so let me check so I can check myself what it sounds like. Don't hear any sound. Let's click on that button. For now, those of you guys saw the vlog from Friday, email up. All right, so you guys should be able to see this now. Okay, so the sound is good. Thank you, Java. Now we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so these are the types of queries. Now, bear with me. Like I said earlier, I'm behind on sleep, a little tired, but I'm really dedicated to bringing you guys this content. So just bear with me here. So we got these types of queries. You have DDL, DML, DQL, DCL. This particular document also refers to data administration commands and transactional control commands. But we're just going to be focusing on the data language, you know, the D something L, right? So data definition, manipulation, query, and control. So for the most part, what I usually do is DQL, or data query language, and sometimes I will do DML, which is data manipulation language. These are primarily the types of queries that I'll do. So DML and DQL, data manipulation and data query language. Now, there was an interesting conversation I remember one time that was had in the office, where someone who was just learning SQL made a comment saying, you know, they were looking at some queries for the first time, and they were like, hey, are those queries? And they they were saying, I think they were looking at like insert statements or something like that, and they were saying that those don't look like queries, right? Those don't look like queries to them. And obviously there was a lack of understanding of what the word query means in the context of databases. And then the interesting thing is there was a person in a development team who was there at the time and who commented saying, you know, yeah, I see what you mean, you know, kind of agreeing, but that person also seemed to not putting down what they know. They probably know what they need to know to get the job done. But sometimes what happens is you miss some of the fundamental concepts that you're sort of utilizing on a daily basis. You just know how to do what you need to do, but do you really understand what's behind it all and why you do things a certain way? And do you understand the terminology? So for example, someone could be doing SQL or SQL for a really long time and not really know even these definitions, you know, this data definition, data manipulation. They may not even know these things, even though they've been doing it for a really, really long time, because you don't necessarily need to know what they're called. But anyway, bottom line is, what I had to tell the individuals and insert into the conversation was that, yes, these are queries. Queries are not just where you're like requesting things, you know, select star from orders, right? Show me everything in the orders table. Select star from orders where quantity greater than, right? A lot of people don't understand, oh yeah, it's a query. It sounds like a query. That's not the only thing that's considered a query. You have different types of queries, right? I mean, the entire thing, the language is referred to formally as structured query language, right? But within that structured query language, there's different things that you can do. And as you can see, some of those things have been categorized. So what a lot of people think of when they think of as queries are usually DQLs, or data query language type of query. So that's where you're going to have something where you're querying things. I want to know how many orders are in the table. I want to know what is the maximum price that has been paid, you know, for this type of product. So I'm looking in the purchasing table and things like that. So that's going to be your data query language queries. Now, in addition to that, you also have data manipulation language. Now that's going to be where it's kind of what it sounds like. It's going to be like where you're manipulating data. So you are doing things like you are inserting, you're doing like updates. So you're going to update a row of data and change its values. These are all sort of data manipulation types of queries. And most of the time, what I will do is data query language. So I'm looking for information. I'm trying to pull records from the database and generate reports and things like that. But in addition to that, sometimes, not that often, I may need to change information in the database, but I'm changing records. So I'm just doing data manipulation as opposed to data definition and data control. I don't really mess with data control. I don't really mess with data definition that much. Data definition is when you're defining things in the database. So you're creating tables and things like that. That's getting more administrative. That's something that really typically a DBA is going to be doing, a database administrator will be doing. But I don't have a need generally to do any kind of data definition. Now, data control would be, I believe, access control, so where you're like granting permissions and things like that. That's also something I don't do. That's also something that's more administrative. I don't really need to know how to do that. Now, if you look here, there's examples of data definition. So you see your data definition, there is create table, alter table, drop table, create index, alter index, drop index, create view, drop view. So these are database objects, right? These are where you're creating the actual structure of the database itself. Not just the records in a database, the actual thing that everything is on, the foundation of your database, your tables. That's where you're doing DDL. Data manipulation, like I said, inserts, updates, deletes. And now I say delete, you can delete a table, but we're not talking about that kind of delete. Data manipulation, again, you're not messing with the database objects, you're messing with the records. Record, you have a record of a purchase. You purchase something, there's a row in the database, a record is a proper term, and that row consists of information regarding that purchase. You want to remove that. That is where you can do a delete on that record. That is a DML, data manipulation. But if you're removing the entire table, now you are messing with a database object. Again, objects, when you're doing that, you're talking about the very structure of the database, the foundation of the database, as opposed to, again, the records. All right, now let me take a quick look in the chat. Okay, all right, so we will continue. So, and I kind of went over this in another video, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Data control, like we talked about, permissions, alter, grant, revoke, that kind of stuff. So we can see here when they talk about data administration commands, which I didn't really talk about before, they reference start audit and stop audit. Definitely something that I would not be doing. These seem to be more, again, DBA type of queries. If you're looking to be a DBA, then you definitely should know all these things, but for most of us, we don't need to mess with that. Generally speaking, most people are using SQL to get information from the database, to generate reports and that kind of stuff. More technical people may actually modify the records in the database manually. I say more technical because it's dangerous. You can really damage the information. So generally speaking, you want to have a GUI, which would be like a front-end application where someone who's not technical can just click on buttons and the application can protect the database from the user. But when you're going in and you're manually running queries, that's very, very dangerous. So we want to have someone that has the skills and understanding to be able to do that without causing harm. So when you're getting into things like transactional control commands, you're doing commits, rollbacks, save point rollbacks, set transactions. These are definitely things that you don't want the average person to be doing. So I guess what I'm going to do now is we can stay on this context, but I'm going to go into more details about specifics, more specific examples. So I guess I can go up on the board a little bit. Let me see how much time I have. I may just talk about it rather than, let's see, I don't really have time. I'm running out of time here. So I guess I'll talk about some of the typical types of queries. So again, the select star from orders, select star from customers, select star from users, select star from vehicles, right? You have tables that you use to store information, different types of information. You have a users table where you store, guess what? User information. You have a customer table. I wonder what you store in the customer table. Customer information, right? This is where your customer records would be. Now, keep in mind, I always try to, be sensitive to people that are new. You don't understand a lot. I'm not referring to actual like default or system tables. I'm talking about tables that you yourself can create for whatever purpose you need. So it's not like you build a database and in there's a customer table, an orders table. No, you build a database and there's nothing, right? You've got to sit down and design your database in terms of, how many tables you're going to have, how these tables are going to interact, figure out, different things like that, performance issues. There's things like indexing, which is a very, very critical part of your design in terms of, considering performance. So you put together what's called your schema, which is basically like your blueprint, and then you create your database. If you want to create a table called my teddy bear collection, whatever you want to call it, whatever it is, you want to store information about a certain thing, you create a table with a name that makes sense, that you can remember, that's logical, that represents that thing. Teddy bear collection, coin collection, or a collections table, whatever it is. You come up with a name and you figure out what information you want to store. So your fields, right? You have records. Records will be each item that you put in the database. You have fields, which is going to be different types of information about the thing you have in the database. So you have a teddy bear collection, right? What do you want to track about your teddy bear? How much you paid for it, what the color of the teddy bear is, what's the weight on the teddy bear, what's the material teddy bear is made out of. Now, what you choose to track is based on you. What information do you want to track or need to track, right? You figure out what you want to track, and whatever that is, you add a field into that table so that you have a space to fit that information. It's just like you're building a spreadsheet. Imagine you're going into Excel and you come up with a little table and you put your headings, you know, color, size, price, whatever. You put that on your top row, and then you start feeding in a record. You buy a teddy bear, you put the name of the teddy bear, the color of the teddy bear. You put them all under the respective columns, and that's how you go and you build your table in Excel. It's basically the same type of thing with your database. You're going to decide on what type of thing you want to track. That's your table name. Then you go to decide what information about that thing or those things you're going to be tracking that you want to track. I'm tracking teddy bears. I want to know the color, the price, whatever. And each thing you want to track, you define as a field. You define the fields. What's the length of the field? What type of data will go in the field? All these things you have to figure out. You've got to also extrapolate in terms of figuring out, you know, make your projections. You know, yes, this is the basic idea, but long term, what are some issues I may run into? Typically, teddy bear names are within 10 characters. What if I one day want to buy a teddy bear that has a 20-character name? Put that into my database if I limit the field by 10 characters, right? You got to think about stuff like that, right? You're starting a company, you're a small company, you only have 50 people working for you, and then you go and you set the field length for your employee number to 2 characters. And then when you cross that threshold of 90 employees, and you have 99 rather, and you have the 100th employee, and you can't insert into the table this 100th employee because the employee number field is limited to 2 characters. And depending on the scenario, it may not be advantageous or possible or feasible for you to just add another length where it used to be 2-character limit. Now you're going to make it a 3-character limit. You know, that could potentially cause you issues. The best idea or best philosophy is for you to design a database, a table, or a database and tables within that database that will stand the test of time. I'm going to have to shut things down pretty soon, but ideally, let me take a quick look in the chat. Okay. Thanks for joining in. You guys joining right now, go ahead and click on that like button. I really appreciate it. And say hi. So yeah, ideally when you're designing your database, when you're putting together your schema, and you guys who are new, go ahead and Google schema, learn more about what a schema is. There's probably example schemas you can look at. Definitely take my course. I cover a lot more information in my course. I'll put a link in the description. Special discounts for my subscribers for sure. But when you're designing your schema, you really want to think about long-term, you know, what could potentially happen. Your company grows to a 3-digit number in terms of how many employees. You know, make sure you have enough fields. Don't limit yourself. Don't say, yeah, you know what, I got 50 employees. One day I might have 100, so let me make it 3 fields. There's no way I'm ever going to go beyond like 900, right? I mean, you look at 3 fields and you're like, I'm good. I could do 100 employees, 200, 300, 400. I'm good. You don't even start thinking beyond 300 because 300 at this time sounds like such a high number. 300 employees, right? So you're just like, yeah, 3 digits, I'm good. No, you've got to really, really go a little bit nuts with this kind of stuff, where you If you're thinking too logically necessarily, or getting too, in the now, then the 3 digits may sound like a great number. But what you need to do is automatically get outside of your comfort zone and just shoot further. Like, okay, 3 digits. So what will the limit be with 3 digits? You see, you need to think about that. You need to stop and think. So if I make it 3 digits, that's more than enough. But I'm gonna project where this can take me, right? Let's see how this scales. So it's limited to 3 characters. That means the highest number is going to be 999. That's a lot of people. I probably never had that many employees, but I'll be limited. If I ever do get that big, then I won't be able to list the thousand employee. So maybe I should just make it 4. You know what? Let me look at company sizes. Let me do some research and see some of the largest companies, how many employees they have to use as reference, right? Then let me consider for a moment, does it really matter, right? Does it really matter that I have this set, close to where it should be? Why not just make it 10 digits? I know there's no way ever. I mean, massive global corporations don't have 10-digit employee numbers. But does it really matter that I'm so much above what I'll ever need? How important is it for me to set the maximum field length to be close to what the largest length I'll ever see, right? You got to think about these things, and then based on your analysis, make a decision. The most I think I'll ever need is this. Just to be safe, I'm going to add this much more, right? And you figure that number out based on, again, your analysis. Largest company in the world, the largest I think my company will ever be. How much extra room should I need to just in case things scale beyond what my expectations are? These are all things to think about. And beyond that, so we talked about select start from orders. Then it's qualifying. First of all, select start from orders is very dangerous in my industry. You're pulling the entire table. You're saying I want to see everything in the tables. That can put a lot of stress on the database and slow things down. And if you're running this on an active production database, and you have customers using this database, and you have a lot of records in there, and you're taxing the server, pulling all these records unnecessarily. Why do you need to see every single record in the orders table? What circumstance would ever come up where you need to see every single record in an orders table, unless it's a really small business, really small database, and you only get like 24 orders? And even in that scenario, why are you looking at every single order? Why aren't you looking for a specific scenario? Why aren't you looking for orders on type of product, orders with a price that's beyond a certain range or something? So that's why generally you add where clauses. So you're going to say select start from orders where quantity greater than, select start from orders where symbol equals, select start from orders where price is greater than or less than or greater than, whatever. Like you can have it in between, right? Prices between this and between that, right? Or select start from orders where use a logical or, where the symbol is IBM or symbol is Apple and price is whatever, right? Generally speaking, you're looking for something specific, so your query should be as specific as possible without being too specific to where you eliminate your possible results. It's just like Google. Google has the ability where you can put things in quotes where you're saying, I specifically want to look up this string. I want to look up the Fat Boys, right? The Fat Boys. That phrase, those 3 words in that order with spaces in between, lock it in with the parentheses, right? So you're not going to get just Fat Boys or the Fat, you're going to get the Fat Boys, right? But what if they actually are generally referred to as Fat Boys and it's not always the? Always referred to as Fat Boys and never the Fat Boys. That's a formal name, but they never really, information on database, information online that you're looking for, the information that you're looking for always says fat boys, but you don't know that, right? You're just searching for this information. But since you got too specific and you're like the fat boys, you eliminated possibly results that you needed. The point where you try to be as specific as possible to eliminate a lot of noise, but you don't want to be too specific to where you're potentially eliminating what you're looking for, because you don't know what it is. You're searching, right? You don't know what's there. You don't know what you're going to find. You're seeking information. So since you don't know what it is exactly, if you get too specific or in your definition of what it is you're looking for without being too clear on it, you risk eliminating it. Because once again, there's a question mark. Why are you searching? You're searching because there's an unknown. You're looking for information that you don't really know about, right? Or everything about, right? Which includes what it's called, right? So the same philosophy goes with when you're doing queries in the database. You want to be as specific as possible, but be too specific to where maybe you made a mistake. You thought the price was between this value and that value, but it's actually slightly higher than you thought, or the way that the price is listed in the database is incompatible with the way you specified the price. So by you specifying this price range, somehow you end up not finding it. The record's there, but you don't find it because you were too specific. But other than that, it's also, you can group by or order by. Let's say, for example, you guys, this is not the video to go into that. Again, take my course, my SQL course. I'm gonna put a link in the description. I go into all this stuff, but you may want to know what is the population for population by country, right? Population by country. So you can have a whole bunch of records of different populations of all these different cities, right? And you can run queries using things like sum, right? Select sum. So I'm going to summarize the total quantity of all the population for all records that indicate a particular country, right? So you have population for New York City, country is United States. Population for Florida, and the country is United States, right? So you can sum all of these populations where the country is, right? And you can use this kind of thing and use a group option at the end, group by, right? Group by, order by. There's a lot of different ways you can display the data to where all you're going to see is United States, 2 billion or whatever it is. I don't know the populations. Just say 2 billion, United States. I don't know why I can't think of another country. France, whatever the population is. So a lot of different things you can do. There's a lot more stuff I want to get into, but I really have to run, guys. So hopefully this was beneficial to you. And if you have any questions, go ahead and place them in the comments section, in the chat, or the comment section, either or. Thanks for listening in. This is Carl Speaks Wall Street. Bonjour, au revoir, salut, arrivederci, buenas tardes, adios. Wie geht's?